G'day guys, Matt Brand here. Do you ever ask yourself what happens when a hot hatch has a baby with an SUV? No? Well, I do, and it's this. Whoa. Welcome to the 2021 Ford Escape Vignale. It is just a monstrously powerful little SUV. And best of all, the variant I'm driving here today is front wheel drive, so it is just absurdly hilarious when you put your foot down. It's also very luxury, like surprisingly so. But like any good story, there's a twist. Oh my God! And for some of you, it could actually be a deal breaker. And if you want to see me talking more about deal breakers in the future, make sure you subscribe. Bloody hell! Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, and let's just get into the review. Now, the Ford Escape starts at just over 40,000 Australian dollars, which is quite a lot of money. And as I said, we're driving the top spec Vignale trim, which starts at just under 52,000 Australian dollars in front wheel drive, at about 3 grand if you want the all wheel drive. There's no escaping, pun intended, that this thing is pretty pricey. In fact, you can start to get some cars like the BMW X1, the Audi Q3, and other luxury cars for about this price. However, this thing is fully loaded. We'll discuss that more when we jump into the interior. You also get arguably one of the best engines in this class. This thing is monstrously quick. Across the range, you get a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, as Ford will call it an EcoBoost, and it pumps out a blistering 183 kilowatt of power and 387 Newton meters of torque. And that will propel this thing, this front-wheel drive, random mid-size SUV, to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.4 seconds. What the You know, when I got into this thing, I was like, oh, it's just a cruisy SUV, nothing special. I put my foot down. What? Oh man, it's unbelievably powerful. And like, I got out of the Mustang into this and it was like, oh, what the man, this thing is fast. Now, as I said, this thing is fast, real fast. But the issue is that all that power goes through to the front wheels, and I'm not entirely 100% sure, but I'm quite certain it's an open diff. I doubt they would put a limited slip differential on this thing. And so you get so much hot hatch characteristics. It torque steers, it wheel spins, it tram lines. Things that are really fun if you want to have a bit of fun, but if you want this to be your around town cruiser, it's not really what you want in a big SUV like this. Reserve that for the Ford Focus ST, and if you want to check out that review, I've linked it down below. So yes, as much as I love the front wheel drive setup on this thing, if you want something that's a bit more composed, go for the all wheel drive. It's just better for this. Now, all of that power is sent through an 8-speed torque converter automatic, and it's actually a very good automatic. You know, a lot of reviewers will go on about how first to second is a bit clunky. It's totally fine. In fact, I think the issues stem from the fact that this thing has so much power as opposed to that this thing has a bad gearbox. But yeah, upshifts are pretty seamless. Downshifts are pretty seamless too. It's very responsive, especially when you put it into sport mode. Man, this thing just takes off. Anyway, there's a lot more to talk about with how this thing drives. So now I want to talk about how it looks. The Escape is a pretty good looking SUV. I don't think it's anything particularly special, if I'm being totally honest, but I also respect that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It certainly looks like a sleeper. I would have never thought that this thing packs as much power as it does. It's got a huge grille on it, and being the Vignale, it also has like these, I don't know, it looks like a seagull pattern to it. You know, like when you draw in arts class a bird, that's what it looks like, but I don't mind it. Excuse me here while I give it some seagull sauce. Whoa. The headlights are pretty good looking too. They've got a simple daytime running light to them, and the LED lights that you get on this are so bright. They are also corner when you turn the steering wheel. It's a really cool setup. And then otherwise, the front is just, it's pretty good looking. Nothing particularly special, in my opinion. The side is classic SUV, but kudos to Ford for not putting stupid black plastic cladding on it. Maybe we finally have a car company with some sense. Now, my Escape has been optioned with the optional 20-inch wheels, and I mean, they look incredible, really good, but they don't do much for the ride. Yeah, The ride is quite harsh, and we'll talk about that a bit more. And then otherwise you get heaps of chrome bits on the side. You get the Vignale badge to show everyone that you spent more money. And yeah, that's about it. The rear again is quite nice. It's simple, it's unoffensive. I like the tail lights. I think they're pretty cool. You get the obligatory roof spoiler up top so you can lap the Nürburgring in your German-made Ford Escape. And then down the bottom, you get real exhaust, which, believe it or not, is not a given in 2021. So well done, Ford. So yeah, I mean, overall, I like the way that this thing looks. I don't think it's the most spectacular car, but hey, it's good looking. But what do you guys think of the way it looks? Is it worth the Vignale luxury badge? All right, let's move on to the interior now. And yes, I'm gonna tell you what the big twist is. Well, if you go out right now and you order yourself a brand new Ford Escape Vignale from the factory, you're not going to be getting the exact same car that I'm driving here today. Because as of early 2021, before this car was actually built, they have removed some of the options but kept it at the same price. So what do you lose? Well, you lose the manual mode and the paddle shifters. You also lose your heated steering wheel and your heated rear seats. Now, I get it, by Ford, it's a cost-saving measure, and it's something that not everyone really needs in their car. But I mean, I just fundamentally disagree with de-optioning things from the year prior, especially when you don't reduce the price at all. Oh, we're on some twisties here. Ooh. Guys, I am in heaven. I love what I do. I love what I do. Apart from that though, once you're actually in this interior, it is a really surprisingly nice place to be. Again, I got into this thing, I'm like, what? What? You have soft touch materials absolutely everywhere, and that's really important for helping to soak up a lot of road noise. It helps soak up a lot of road noise and lowers the noise floor within here. So it's really quiet, even though I'm doing, 80 kilometers an hour on pretty crappy roads and having a lot of fun doing it. Man, I should be doing the driving segment here, not the interior. And you've got some really cool touches like this wood look finish, which is pretty convincing. And you've got faux stitching all around the dash. The steering wheel has got this beautiful stitching on it. And yeah, it's just a really premium feeling place to be. In terms of ergonomics and practicality, the steering wheel is adjusting quite massively, as are these seats. They are fully electric, as you would expect on this model. And they're also memory. Do I go left or right? Yeah, let's go left. Oh, it's 60 here. That's depressing. You get two cup holders in the center, and in the middle is like this little cup holder for like an energy drink or whatever. You get more bottle holders in the door bins, and the door bins are a massive size. I'll be honest with you guys, I have no idea where I am, but it is stunning. All right, come on, sauce. Whoa, this thing pulls, man. You also get a storage center right in front of the center armrest, and the center armrest is a massive size, and it does slide so you can get into a comfortable position. Up front is even more storage. You get a wireless charger up there and heaps of room for whatever you really want. The glove box is a massive size too, and you get a USB port up front, a USB-C port, and a 12-volt socket. They even think about things like where your leg rests is a softer padded material over here. It's just, there's been a lot of thought given to the interior space, and so I'm very appreciative of that. I will say though, fit and finish could potentially be a bit better, because behind me there is definitely a rattle that comes out of nowhere and annoys me to no end. But it comes and it goes. I can't figure out where exactly it's coming from. Let me know if you're an owner and you have issues with that too. Then there are these seats, these Vignale seats. You know they're Vignale seats because they have a Vignale badge on them. There's a lot of Vignale. Guys, I have no idea where I am right now. Who says you can't take a front wheel drive Escape on gravel roads? You're wrong. Oh, thank God, a normal road. Should we do it? Should we do it? Should we give it some sauce? Should we? All right. All right. You're right. You're the boss. Oh my God. Oh, where'd these cars come from? Glad I gave it the sauce. But yeah, these seats, they are super duper comfortable. They have lumbar support, so I feel quite supported, especially over these longer journeys. They've got a really nice design to them too. I love the stitching and the perforated leather. And yeah, I've got really no complaints about them. They're really nice. As is this steering wheel. It feels so good in the hands. Not only that, I think it looks great too, and it is extremely functional. You have buttons to control absolutely everything, including the heads-up display, which is on this little sliding piece, and you can retract it or extend it, and it works very well. The 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster is totally fantastic, Except for one thing, it's certainly laggy, almost inexcusably laggy. You know, you switch between different menus and it can really take its time to load. Having said that, the graphics on it are super sharp. And I love that when you change between the different driving modes, you do get different animations coming up. It's very cool. Don't like this little drive-by-wire shifter. Really annoying. But yeah, it shows plenty of information, so I'm happy with it. I also love this 8-inch infotainment display. It is just super responsive, color accurate, and it works. It's certainly not the greatest system out there. I'd have to give that award to the Hyundais and Kias of this world, but I mean, it's almost as good. In terms of functionality, you get navigation, digital radio, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay, and it's just reliable and functional, so happy. Also, really happy with the rear seats. At 5'11", I have plenty of legroom, headroom, and toe room. You can also recline the seats and slide them back and forward for extra comfort. As I said, these ones are heated, but you're not going to be getting that anymore. And they are the same Vignale seats as up front, so they're extremely comfortable, very soft, but they feel supportive. It really does feel like a luxury car back there. Boot space is also surprisingly good. I mean, I say surprisingly, it's an SUV, but you can fit so much back there. Enough about practicality though, we want to talk about how this thing drives, because it's very impressive. The one thing I noticed instantly getting into this thing is how firm it rides. Now, as I said, that has something to do with the fact that this has the optional 20-inch wheels. You just get less tire, so it soaks up less bumps. But you also get an incredibly well handling car as a result. So this thing is really tuned for sportiness, but less so for around town comfort. So yeah, you get into town and you start to notice that this thing has firmer suspension than competition. When you're on the back roads, like I've been, it's incredible, but it's not so desirable when you're around town. Though really, it's no race car. So don't get in expecting the worst ride in the world. It's just not the best. The steering is also a bit of a mixed bag, but opposite to the suspension, because normally it's actually just too light. So in normal mode, you end up driving a car that is a bit too firm on suspension and a bit too light in steering. You can of course fix that by changing the car into sport mode, as I will do now, and it adds a noticeable amount of weight to the steering. And I really like the way that this feels. However, the engine just becomes too damn responsive because it's too powerful. Look, my foot's half down, it's just like gone. I will say though, where this shines is on back roads like this, on the twisties. If you want to have a bit of fun, you absolutely can. Because of the firmer suspension, there is almost no body roll. You know, you go into a corner like this, even at 100 k's an hour, and it is so planted. It dynamically speaking is a really fun car. Again, surprising, look at it. It's the biggest sleeper, but it's almost unnecessary in a car that realistically is going to be driven mostly around town, at least here in Australia. But yeah, I am really impressed with how this thing drives. It truly is a hot hatch that's had a baby with an SUV. In terms of is it worth it, I'll be honest, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The biggest issue for me is the price. This thing is expensive at 52,000 Australian dollars. Now, as I said, you get hot hatch performance. A lot of hot hatches are around the $50,000 mark. However, that is a completely different market to this, and a lot of people who buy a mid-sized SUV like this aren't expecting hot hatch performance. They want refinement. And even though this drivetrain is so much fun and I love it, I'm weird. I love like crazy cars, and this thing has crazy performance, but that doesn't translate into refinement. What is incredibly refined is the interior. It is such a nice place to be. I'm so comfortable on longer journeys, especially. It's nice and quiet in here. Everywhere you touch is soft. It feels luxury. I think the ST line is a much better buy, and if it were my money, I'd probably go with the all-wheel drive, and that might make this thing feel way more refined. And you should absolutely look at competitors too, just to make sure that you are making the right choice. Do you want power and speed, or do you want a bit more refinement? To be honest, I know what I would choose. That was a hint. That was a hint. But what do you guys think of the Ford Escape Vignale? Is it too expensive, or is it just the right price? And how do you feel about them removing some of those options? Click over there if you want to watch some of my other reviews. I highly recommend it. Of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Like the video too. It really, really helps out. And if you want to support the channel even more, check out my Patreon in the link below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next week.